So the stimulus bill has been delayed. There was to be a vote last night in the House of Representatives on that $2.2 trillion stimulus bill. That didn't happen last night. Well, because it looks like talks are continuing. Now, you'll recall, folks, back a few weeks ago, I said, if we see this $2.2 trillion stimulus package come to the floor of the House and it's voted upon, that means that negotiations have failed and we're not getting a stimulus. Why? Well, because the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has already said, if that $2 trillion bill, $2.2 trillion bill comes my way, I'm not voting for it. It's done. We're not even going to bring it to the floor of the Senate. So that is on hold. The $2 trillion version is on hold at this hour, which is, in my eyes, good news, because we're now learning of an actual other White House proposal. The White House has now come forward and put together a proposal. We're getting some details. This is not finalized yet. But Secretary Mnuchin and the White House, Mark Meadows, and President Trump are basically floating a $1.62 trillion package. So less than the 2.2, more than the 1.5, right around $1.62 trillion. So folks, there's hope. There is hope. And it looks like we're getting closer and closer and closer by the hour to a stimulus plan. So let me go through what's in this latest stimulus package. Now, again, this is not finalized. And Roll Call, which is a Washington, D.C. publication, they've been around for years. And I've been reading Roll Call for many years. Makes me feel so old. I used to read them I think like 20 years ago. Anyway, they are reporting that there will be direct payments of $1,200 for adults and only $500 for dependents. So not quite the $1,200 that House Democrats wanted back in their HEROES Act. It would be $250 billion for state and local governments, far less than the $1 trillion that Democrats wanted in their HEROES Act. But it's $100 billion more than what the White House previously wanted. So state and local governments would at least get $250 billion. That's good news. There would be $150 billion for education. Democrats wanted $225 billion. There would be $400 per week in unemployment insurance. $400, not $600, right? It's $100 more than what Senate Republicans wanted at $300. It's $200 less than what Democrats wanted at $600. So $400 is your compromise. There'd be $75 billion for COVID-19 testing and tracing. That actually meets what Democrats wanted. Republicans only wanted $16 billion because we're not in a pandemic. Republicans, I mean, come on, man. Seriously,
come on, man.
You know, Republicans, you're fine. You don't want money in there for testing and tracing because you know why? That doesn't line the pockets of your corporate donors, does it? $10 billion in here for the United States Postal Service. That's less than what Democrats wanted. So that's good news. At least the Postal Service will get something. There'll be $160 billion in here for Paycheck Protection Program. So another round of PPP for small businesses. That's good news. Nearly $120 billion for businesses like restaurants and entertainment venues. And $20 billion for farmers and ranchers. Now, it's not clear whether Senate Republicans would support this expensive proposal. So it all comes down to the Senate and Mitch McConnell. Will they support it? The idea is, though, that if the White House is driving this and Senate leader and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin is pushing this from the White House, the Senate Republicans better get on board. And President Trump could be at odds with Mitch McConnell on this. Mitch McConnell has said that if it's north of $2 trillion, we will not touch it. He recently called the $2.2 trillion an outlandish request. And he also dismissed the idea of getting any stimulus plan through Congress before November 3rd. He said that on Wednesday, Mitch McConnell did. So the source who outlined Mnuchin's proposal at Roll Call suggested that Mitch McConnell would support this new proposal. I feel like this is a leak from the White House. I've been around Washington long enough to know this is a clear leak from the White House. Mark my words. It's time for a big fizzy water. How do I know it's a leak? It's a trial balloon. And it's a way of controlling the narrative. So by you floating this proposal from the White House, saying the things that you want in this and saying that Mitch McConnell is on board with it, it boxes him in. It puts him in a corner. And no one puts turtle in a corner. Because you know what Mitch McConnell will say? I never said anything about supporting a bill. I never said anything about supporting a bill. Oh, they want to give me a viable bill, I'll look at it. But a spokesperson for Mitch McConnell denies this, denies that he supports this. Fun times, right? So Democrats have not yet voted on this $2 trillion package. And now it looks like this $1.62 trillion proposal from the White House. Look, they're going back and forth. They keep spending an hour on the phone, Stephen Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi. I think this is a starting point. We're at $2 trillion. We're not that far apart anymore. 2.2 trillion, 1.6. Are we going to wind up at 1.8 or is this going to be it? Here was Secretary Mnuchin yesterday talking about these latest negotiations and where things currently stand.
Through no fault of their own. Will we see another financial package to aid them before Election Day?
Well, the president and I are working hard on a bipartisan proposal. I spoke to Speaker Pelosi several times over the weekend. We had a conversation for about an hour yesterday, going through different aspects of it. And I expect I will come back with her later this afternoon and we'll deliver a response. So I think we'll have a very reasonable response, something that's very similar to what has been the bipartisan proposal that the Problem Solvers has worked on. And I hope we can get something done because, as you said, there are clearly still businesses out there, small businesses that are impacted. We need more money for kids going to school. We need liability protection for small businesses to open the economy. And we're going to continue to work hard to try to get those results to the American people that are impacted.
I like what Roj says in the chat today. Roj says, he looks like every school teacher you've ever hated. He has the ear of Wall Street. I mean, he's a Wall Street guy. All these guys are. And so the problem I have with any of this, of course, is that they passed already the stimulus plan that they wanted for big businesses in the CARES Act. Nothing for state and local governments. Nothing for the little guy. All of it right for Wall Street. Government bailout for Wall Street. But I got to tell you, the stock market at this hour is up because of these stimulus negotiations, because of this floating by the White House of this $1.6 trillion package, and because Congress last night delayed the vote on their symbolic $2.2 trillion plan. We could actually see a stimulus plan, and that's why Wall Street was so excited about it. So go ahead and smash that like button if that's good news for you. I'm excited about it because I think this could help so many people if they can push this through. Again, I believe we need universal basic income until we get out of this. So I don't think a one-time check of $1,200 is enough at all, especially when so many people are facing, eviction. One thing I'm disheartened about in this, though, is also that there is no, I don't see anything in here for rental assistance. So will Democrats push back on that? Any sort of rental assistance, please, for people that are going to be thrown out and evicted, having to live in homeless shelters right now? Through no fault of their own, they're kicked out of their house because of this pandemic. President Trump has said, look, he signed that executive order on eviction moratorium, so he's publicly talked about it. Why wouldn't that be in here, by the way? If this is coming from the White House, this $1.6 trillion package, why wouldn't President Trump put an eviction moratorium in here as well as rental assistance so people can get caught up on their payments? It's not enough to just have an eviction moratorium. because that's just kicking the can down the street. Let me know what you think about this $1.6 trillion package. And we hopefully might see some further details on this today, and we might actually see a bill, perhaps even before the end of the week. Question is whether or not it'll pass and go over to the Senate, where Mitch McConnell will sit on it like a turtle. It's the very latest on the stimulus.